Hey, folks, it is Friday, December 22nd. That means you have 4 more days to take advantage of one of the best Sunset Lake Seder sales of the year. All of their gummies are 30% off with the coupon code mushroom. Why mushroom? Because they've got 2 new gummies. One is the Relax gummies. That's with Seder, reishi, and ashwagandha mushrooms. And the other one is Focus gummies, Seder, lion's mane, and cordyceps. You will notice this one is only about halfway full because not because they only send you half these packages, because I've eaten half of them over the past couple of days. I'm enjoying them. But this one, the Relax gummies, these are going to get used extensively over the next week for me. I am traveling to go to someone special's family's Christmas time, and then my kids are coming to meet us.
Yeah?
And yes, we're all the way. We're going to be going to like around to some of the Grand Canyon type of stuff.
Oh,
and
fun.
yes, but I'm going to need the Relax gummies. Believe me, these are traveling with me. And right now, you can get them too. I don't know if you'll get them in time for your Christmas trip, but the Focus gummies, like I say, contain a blend of lion's mane, mushroom, cordyceps, and Seder to help you with attention and mood. And the Relax gummies contain reishi, mushroom, ashwagandha, and Seder to help you better manage the stress and ground yourself. That's what I'm going to need. If you head to sunsetlakesebede.com, you can save 30% on all Sunset Lake Seder gummies with the coupon code mushroom. Plus, if you spend over $99, you can choose to add a free 20-count jar of the new gummies to your order. And don't forget, they also got the Seder with a little bit of THC gummies in there, which I have availed myself of recently as well. And, of course, the melatonin ones, which I avail myself of very consistently.
Nightly.
And also, they have the regular Seder gummies. 30% off. Coupon code mushroom. And of course, as always, Majority Report listeners can save 20% on everything in the store with the coupon code left is best. Great company, great product, great business practices, great movement partners. Check it out. The sale ends on the day of December 26th. So don't wait. Head over to sunsetlakesebede.com. Take advantage of this deal and grab yourself some new functional mushroom gummies. See their website for terms and conditions. And now, for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, December 22nd, 2023. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. It is the final live show of the year. Joining us today, Heather Parton. You may know her as Digby from the Uber blog Hullabaloo. Meanwhile, Washington Post reports their investigation has found no command center under the Al-Shifa hospital. The New York Times investigation finds Israel repeatedly bombed with massive 2,000-pound bombs supposed safe areas in Gaza. Meanwhile, at the UN, U.S. signs off on a sternly worded letter to the manager in lieu of a call for ceasefire. Joe Biden pardons thousands of people convicted for federal pot possession. New polling shows student debt may be kneecapping Biden. Meanwhile, the Fed's favorite measure of inflation is now below 2%. And And a new recording shows that, presents that Trump pressured Wayne County, Michigan election workers not to certify the election. Sounds like he may have called just about everybody. Speaking of which, Rudy Giuliani files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy after a judge says Rudy must pay $148 million now. Columbia College adjunct strike. We spoke to a strike representative there last week. This week? Last week? Well, the strike is over. Union wins a lot of its demands.
Woohoo.
Wells Fargo, New Mexico branch vote to unionize. I think it's the first in the country. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Casual Friday.
Casual Friday. And, I mean, so casual.
Final live show of the year.
Final live show of the year. We've all set up our best ofs. You're going to love those. That compilation that we've made there. The best ofs. Oh, here, I'm going to shift over here for a moment, if you don't mind, folks.
There we go.
There we go.
A little better.
All right, centered. Nice. Here we are. I mentioned in the ad read that I'm going to be traveling this week, which...
You getting on a plane?
I'm getting on a plane, yes, going halfway, I don't know, 3/4 of the way across the country. You just get to stick around here, right?
I'm all my family's kind of in like a 2-hour radius here, so I'm making the rounds. 3 families in like 4 days, but
and
I
you
don't
get
have
to see your fiance's family too.
Yes,
right?
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Our parents are divorced, and then his family. So we're doing everything. We're doing everything. So pray for me.
Well, at the Christmas I'm going to, I think there actually might be some of that. This is going to be a little bit different for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, I don't generally celebrate Christmas, and so I'm.
Are you bringing your weapons of war
all my
to
guns.
wage?
Oh yeah, no.
Well,
I may have to.
No, the gummies are your the gummies
I
are
may have to.
your shield.
I may have to sheath all of the weapons on my war on Christmas.
Temporary humanitarian pause.
Exactly. But I'm not freaking out.
No.
Anyways, folks, let's get into this. We're still in the wake, and as you know, on January 4th, the Supreme Court will have picked up this case involving Donald Trump's being booted, or rather not being booted, made ineligible. And this is maybe a distinction without a difference in terms of in practice. But it is basically saying that the theory being that you need to qualify for the ballot, you need to have, you need to not be under 35 years old. You need to not have participated in an insurrection against the country. You need to be a native-born member, a citizen of the country. These are all just constitutional provisions that have been set up. And the Supreme Court will take this up. Let's listen to this. Now, when I had talked about this ruling the other day, I think we all agree the Supreme Court is going to overturn this.
Yeah.
I think people can have different perspectives on as a political matter. What should happen as a legal matter, it ends up being a decision that the Supreme Court is going to make. At the time, I thought that I have a theory as to how they're going to do it, but we will let's hear Marjorie Taylor Greene on with Newsmax Eric Bolling. They're making political hay out of this for Donald Trump, which is to be expected. Certainly not a reason not to pursue the letter of the law. We're talking about the 14th Amendment, third paragraph, or I should say Article 3 of the 14th Amendment. But here is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, it is insane, and that's what everybody is calling it. Absolutely insane. But Eric, let's be honest. If the left, if the Democrats want to start making these rules, well, guess what? We can use the same exact rules. For example, we could take Joe Biden off the ballot in red states and other states because he is committing treason with his border policies, and the invasion has gotten so bad at the southern border. We could also take his name off the ballot because of the impeachment inquiry that we've been doing on the Oversight Committee, and we produced evidence that Joe Biden has definitely participated in Hunter Biden's business deals with foreign countries and sold his power for political favors, and he's received the financial benefit from that because we have the checks. And so I'm a big believer, if the left wants to make new rules, well, we should make them live and play by their own rules.
Now, well, one of the obvious problems about this is that the left isn't making any new rules. There is a constitution. The framers of the Constitution, at one point in the wake of the Civil War, added some amendments to the Constitution, and one of them happens to be the 14th Amendment, and it was in direct response to the Civil War, where people serving and fighting for the Confederacy were considered insurrectionists.
Right.
And folks at that time both didn't want them to run for these positions. And by folks, I mean, lawmakers. And they decided to pass this. And they assumed, like, we want to make sure that if anybody tries this again in the future, they cannot. So the weird thing is, well, obviously, this is not new rules. The weird thing is that when they say, like, we can do this, they got to go through a court case. It's not like somebody, some governor decided this is what we're going to do. It was a court.
Yeah.
The state Supreme Court.
When she mentions the impeachment, I mean, it's not the 2 times that Donald Trump got impeached that is preventing him, or that is feeding into this. This is through the court system. So when she talks about going after the business dealings and that he's committing treason with his right-wing border policy that's very similar to what Trump did, that's completely inoperable in this instance.
Well, I mean, it does raise an issue as to what I think the Supreme Court is going to strike down. They're going to be desperately looking for a way to strike this down because the plain reading of the 14th Amendment,
I'm looking at it
they
now.
They could argue that it doesn't mention the presidency, but it's really hard to argue that he's not an officer who took an oath.
Do you want me to read
the
it?
Constitution. What, the 13th Amendment? Well, we
this
read
is
it the other
Section
day.
3. Yeah, just the fact, it doesn't explicitly say the president, but it does say, or hold any office, civil or military. And Kowalski made a great point on the IMs that commander-in-chief is the top military officer.
I mean, you'd have to do a lot of dancing around to say that the officer. I mean, it's not inconceivable they would say that because that's the way that they roll.
Yep.
But I also think they might have an argument where they would say, well, Donald Trump has not been convicted of being an insurrectionist. Now, I think you can look at the obvious, there's obviously evidence. We were talking about not only, what's coming out of Wayne County now in terms of his motivation, but we also know that there were lies told to get the permit for that rally. And they already were aware that the president was going to pretend like he's not sending people down to Congress. I mean, they knew that in advance, so clearly there was a plan there. But the idea of folks who fought for the Confederacy being insurrectionists, and I can't point to it, but were considered, I would imagine, statutorily, if you took up arms against the Union at that time, you were involved in an insurrection. That was a blanket proclamation. So there was some statutory basis to say, here's the evidence that you were in the Confederate Army, you were an insurrectionist. It has been a failure of Merrick Garland, in my estimation.
Yeah.
And we see this now with Jack Smith, to charge him with insurrection. Because how do you establish that he was in insurrection? So I have a feeling the Supreme Court's going to go, The issue is there's no way no one's attempted to establish that he specifically is an insurrectionist. We've had people go to jail for participating in that insurrection. Many, many people. Donald Trump is not one of them. Mm-hmm. He has not stood trial, and he's no charges currently about the insurrection. And so I think that's where they're going to come off it. But
could you make a legal case that if, the Jack Smith trial goes through and Donald Trump is convicted of something,
isn't that on the documents though?
Yeah, it is on. That's on the Jack Smith one's. No, the January 6th one is the Jack Smith one, right? The federal January 6th one.
I don't know. Maybe if he's convicted, I don't know. But he's not charged with insurrection.
Understood.
In that case.
But I think that would be more of an opening, right? Because it's related to the insurrection. I don't know.
They have to wait and see what the outcome of that case would be either way.
The conservative textualists are going to try to make this like the most kind of narrow reading possible of this, obviously.
It should be interesting. And, as a political matter, maybe that's a different thing. Maybe we'll talk to Digby about that. And we will get to Digby in just a moment. First, another couple of words of our sponsors. I used this this morning.
What is it?
Things look pretty
pretty
smooth
neat
right
up
here.
there.
Yep.
Yeah, no stray hairs.
Nope. That's because one of our sponsors is Henson Shaving. Henson Shaving is a family-owned aerospace parts manufacturer that has made parts for the International Space Station, Mars rover, and now they're bringing their precision engineering to your shaving experience. Back when I grew a beard, I was like, I'm not going to have a subscription shaver. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. And Henson Shaving came around, and I'm like, I'm going to check this out. This is the best razor, that I have ever owned. In fact, actually, this is not the one that I own. The one I own is at home, and it's black.
That's the one my fiance owns, the silver one.
I
see it every morning.
I have the black one. And this is, it's a great razor for a multitude of reasons. And I honestly think that, aside from the fact that they are an engineering company, they use computer numerical control machines to develop this. I really don't think that you could do this unless you were Canadian.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Because once you buy this razor, which has these channels to evacuate your shaving cream and whatnot. Once you buy this razor, it costs you $3 to $5 a year for the rest of your life to maintain this as an amazing shave, because it uses the non-proprietary, double-edged razor blades that you can buy anywhere. You put it in, you drop it in, it is a great shave. And why is it such a great shave? Well, it turns out the reason why your other shavers are no good, and you don't need 15 blades on these things to do it. The reason why they are rough or they scratch you or whatever it is, it's because of the distance of the blade from the razor, like a diving board. And the longer it is, and we're talking, tiny, tiny amounts, the more it wobbles and the less it sort of like keeps straight, et cetera, et cetera. With their engineering, that made a space station stuff, they make metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches, less than the thickness of a human hair. It means a secure and stable blade with a vibration-free shave. And again, they have the channels to do the thing, so you don't have to bang it on your sink. It is the best razor.
It's pretty
Not
great.
the best razor business, because again, $3 to $5 a year. Once you buy this, and it's a beautiful razor, it would make a great gift. And you use standard dual edge razors. And now they're giving our audience a 2-year free supply of blades for free. Just go to hensonshaving.com/majority. That's HENSON shaving.com/majority. Add your razor, and then you have to put the 100-pack of blades into your card. Enter the code majority. Get the blades for free. The link is in the description. Best shave you'll ever have. Promise you that. Check it out. Also, great gift. You can be late with that gift, and you may even still be able to have time to get it there before Christmas or right after. When you give someone a gift, you want them to be able to take it out of the box and enjoy it right away. Well, Aura Frames allows your sort of more, how can I put this delicately, technologically challenged parents or grandparents or even, brothers or sisters or cousins or aunts or uncles to enjoy a digital frame. This is it's a beautiful frame. But the amazing thing about it is that you can load all of the pictures onto the frame. You don't even need to have the box with you. You can order it online, get the code, go directly to the frame, load it all up. You can even install the Wi-Fi stuff. So you preset the Wi-Fi on the frame.
Wow.
And it will find the Wi-Fi and the password. So all you got to do is plug it in. It is it's a revelation. You can have the box with you, and you look on the code, or you look at the QR code, or you can get it when you order it. I mean, so what you could do is send the frame, even if it's late for Christmas. You take pictures of everybody open up their presents. Bing, they plug it in. All the pictures show up. It is the perfect gift for this holiday. Visit auraframes.com/majority today. Get $30 off their best-selling frames. These frames sell out quickly. Get yours right now before they're gone. That's AURA frames.com/majority. Use the promo code majority. You'll get $30 off their best-selling frame. Terms and conditions apply. We will put the link in the podcast and YouTube description. Now we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Heather Parton. You may know her as the columnist at salon.com or the Uber blogger at the Uber blog Hullabaloo as Digby. We'll be right back. And for the last time in 2023, there it is. Heather Parton's theme song, ladies and gentlemen. Digby, so great to have you on the final day of 2023. We've been talking on, I don't know how long we've been doing on this show. For 12 years on this show, maybe 13 years, I don't know, 14 years in Air America. I don't know. We've been at this for quite a while. This year we were, Em and I were just like coming up with a list of stuff that happened this year. The
East Palestine rail disaster. I mean, it feels like that was 4 years ago. It was in February.
We had the Twitter files. We had all the Donald Trump indictments. We had Ron DeSantis go from hero to goat. But
No, not even like most kids think of GOAT as greatest of all time.
Well, I was going to say
hero to zero.
Greatest of all time, sort of lead balloon, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
rivaling
that's saying something.
Scott Walker. And
Yeah.
we've had the Republicans essentially fall apart and have to replace their speaker with a theocrat. And we should say one of the least productive Congresses in the history of Congress. They passed like 23 bills or something. Ukraine, obviously, the Hamas attack on Israel, and then Israel's subsequent sort of onslaught, and really attempted, at the very least, ethnic cleansing of Gaza. We don't know how that ends up, but new report in the Washington Post today that Netanyahu's been lobbying Biden, Macron, who else?
Trudeau?
Trudeau, maybe in Britain. I can't recall off the top of my head. Sunak to essentially force Egypt to take hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. And then, we're looking at Joe Biden almost like breaking records for a disapproval rating. We've also had half a dozen, almost five, I think, interest rate increases, exacerbating a housing crisis in this country. I don't know what we should start with. Why don't we just start with the most recent and then go backwards, because this also has to do with going forward. Donald Trump booted off the ballot in Colorado. That decision has been stayed until January 4th, or it will be further stayed until the Supreme Court looks at it. What's your perspective on that? I mean, aside from the fact that I think we all know the Supreme Court is going to overturn this case, do you think they should? I mean, do you think that some people out there say it should be 9-0 in terms of a ruling? What is your perspective on that?
Well, it's actually tougher than I thought it would be, because to me, when I first read about this, there was an op-ed written by Professor Lawrence Tribe and former, appellate court judge Michael Luttig, a liberal and a conservative, both very, highly regarded, suggesting that this was not just asserting that this was, a proper reading of the 14th Amendment, and that Trump should be barred from running for office again. And when I read that, I thought, well, that makes sense to me. Seems perfectly obvious. And to me, I don't think there's any question that he was involved and participated in the insurrection on January 6th. And in fact, he incited it and was basically one of the architects of the insurrection. So, I don't, on the merits of it, I can't see how anybody could read it otherwise, that he isn't disqualified the same way anyone would be if they, didn't meet the requirements. And this, obviously, he doesn't meet the requirements. Having said that, though, I am persuaded by certain people that I respect, like, Steve Vladeck, law professor from Texas. I mean, there are a number of them who've said, maybe not. There are a number of unsettled issues regarding this. There are a number of off-ramps that are available to the Supreme Court to take that actually aren't egregious, and they possibly could do it. I don't know about 9-0. That seems like a bit much. But nonetheless, I'm persuaded that it's not as much of a slam dunk as I had thought. And on the political side, there are a number of ways to, that I think that that Trump should be barred from office. That being one of them, I think a convicted felon, which he may very well be by the time the election comes along next year. I don't think convicted felons should probably be allowed. They can't even vote, so how can he be president? And finally, hopefully, the voters will turn him out. But the ramifications of the court deciding to take him off the ballot, it's really kind of unknowable. And I got to be honest, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of us always having to worry about, oh no, what are the Trump people going to do? They're going to rise up. They're going to be upset. And then what'll happen? It's like every single issue that comes up with him, including the indictments and everything else. It's like, well, we better appease Don, because you know what happens if he doesn't get his way, then all hell's going to break loose. And I'm kind of tired of that. So, whatever happens with it, I'm fine. I think that it's perfectly legit, and, go for it. If it doesn't work, there are a number of other avenues that we can, hopefully take to take Donald Trump out of the political picture once and for all.
And yeah, I mean, I'm with you. In fact, I think doing this to appease even 50, 60% of the country or 40% of the country, it doesn't matter to me. Ignoring the law to appease a certain amount of people in this respect, I think it is absurd. And frankly, Donald Trump might be the best candidate for Joe Biden to run against, frankly. So it's not, but I do think that, you got to follow the law, and because when you don't, it becomes problematic down the road. I mean, we've seen this many, many times, particularly with abuse of power issues. I don't know if Vladeck pointed out that question of there's been no formal assessment as to whether he was an insurrectionist. I have no doubt about it.
Right.
But we've had that formal assessment of individual insurrectionists who've gone to jail. I mean, some people have gone to jail for years and years because of what they did on that day. And so he's never been found guilty of that, which I think is a failure, frankly, on the a part of the Department of Justice and this and that. But as the political fallout, I just don't think people would have been upset if Ollie North went to prison for Iran-Contra, but he should have. Maybe people would have been upset if Nixon had gone to jail, but he should have.
They were upset that he didn't win the last election, and they staged an insurrection because of it. I mean, they're upset. They just get upset. And they'll be upset, by the way, if he loses the election. They'll be upset if he is convicted. They're going to be upset unless they get exactly what they want. And even then, by the way, they're going to be upset anyway, because they're upset. They were upset when Donald Trump won in 2016. I don't know if you remember all the people running around screaming and starting fights and, screaming Donald Trump on airplanes and calling people Hillary bitches. And I mean, they were horrible. I wrote a big piece about it. It's like, it's not enough for them to win. They need to, just grind it, their enemies to dust in any case. So, there's no margin in trying to appease these people because they're unappeasable. So, you just go with try to do the right thing. Now, having said that, though, I don't know if this court, I have a theory, or not. It's not really a theory. A possibility. I've written about a possibility. There are a number of ways this could go. This case, I think the likely case is that they're going to overturn it. I agree with you for all those reasons, and there are so many logical off ramps for them to take, so that they don't have to make the tough decision on this one. And there are other ones that are out there, and of course, there's this one with Trump and immunity, right. And that is. I mean, to me, that's the dicey one and maybe the most important, because if they grant a president immunity from anything he does during office, during his time in office, his or her time in office, and then they're immune thereafter, we basically have, a get out of jail free card for anything. And that's absolutely insane. And especially since we've had demonstrated now over and over again that impeachment is a very, very it's a useless, sort of operation in a time of highly polarized two parties. So it's not going to work. And so if there's no criminal, liability for anybody, then we have a real problem. So hopefully they don't do that. But then there's this other case which applies to what you were talking about, all these people who've gone to jail. This is the Fisher case. One of the people who've been convicted of obstructing an official proceeding is one of the charges, and there have been hundreds of people convicted of that. The Supreme Court's taken that up, and I have a sneaking suspicion they're going to use that either to delay or, to put a stay on the January 6th case, the special prosecutor Jack Smith's case, and say, well, we really, I think this went over, and delay that case beyond the point where it would be reasonable to hold the trial, perhaps until after the election.
Right.
Or they're going to go ahead and decide it and say that this doesn't apply, that the law was misapplied in all those cases, and two of Donald Trump's charges are on those same charges. So those would be withdrawn completely. And that would leave Jack Smith with a couple of other charges, fraud against the United States, another one.
Oh, Heather. Heather.
Deep state.
There you go.
Deep state.
Silencing.
All right, we just lost Heather, and we will try and get her back on. Bear
Quick
with
break.
us, folks. Sorry about that. Continue, Heather. Sorry, folks.
Okay, sorry. No, I was just going to say that the January 6th case, to me, it's the most important one. It's the one that presents, I mean, actually, the one in Florida, the documents case should be, but it's not, because it's got a judge there that's, obviously going to delay it till after the election. But this January 6th case is super, super important. And I see the court maybe taking some steps that could end up either upending the case altogether or delaying it beyond a point where it's going to make a difference. And that's really too bad, because that's the one I think that really should, be pursued before the election. And in fact, right now they're talking about, the special prosecutor wants the Supreme Court to jump in and decide,
right.
At least on the immunity case, they want him to decide right away. And Trump, of course, is saying this is ridiculous. There's no hurry, Right. Yeah.
Right.
So, we'll have to. I'm kind of crossing my fingers on this, because I think it's super important that they get that done. I mean, one way or the other.
All right. Well, let's we'll jump on across the ledger here, since we're talking about the presidential campaign, and we'll have a better sense in a couple of weeks as to just how dead Ron DeSantis and campaign is, and Nikki Haley's campaign. We'll have a sense of just how dead they are. I mean, it is hard to imagine that if neither one of them wins Iowa or New Hampshire, which, it looks like there's a 99% chance they won't. But we've been in a 99% chance scenario before, and we've seen this. But if DeSantis loses in Iowa, which I think he's going to, and
Nikki Haley's
loses
tied
in New
him
Hampshire.
in Iowa, right? And Nikki Haley's ahead of him in New Hampshire, if
Right,
I'm not
but
mistaken.
either way, they're going to drop out.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least DeSantis will. I can't imagine him staying. Nikki Haley could stay in longer because she has that Coke money. But let's look across the ledger at Joe Biden. We mentioned his approval rating. I guess it ticked up 2 points, but I think it's going to take more than that going forward. His numbers with young people, there's just a poll that came out today. I think it was a YouGov one that said they're pretty good, but not in the numbers that it was in 2020. A lot of those people seem to be going to vote for third party, maybe 5 or 10%. That could be a problem. Where are we in terms of this? Like, Joe Biden does not seem to have at times like the vim and vigor to go out and, sort of campaign, from behind. Although as a president, you don't need to go out, right? I mean, this has been a strategy. A lot of presidents are basically doing like a White House run and this and that. And, we haven't seen Donald Trump on the campaign trail in the way that we have in the past. And it's almost like people have forgotten who he is. But what is your sense of how this is going to shake out? I mean, the biggest thing, it seems to be some of those third party things. And there was a story today where the no labels people are trying to sort of come up with a strategy where they would get into some type of coalition government if they take enough electoral college votes. And I should also say, for whatever reason, Joe Manchin came out with a student debt legislation that really just fixes the website so that you can see your, how much you owe. But, that's the kind of move that, so what is your sense on this?
Well, I'm gonna inject a little hopium here at the end of the year because I feel like we need it. There's an awful lot of bad news on this particular subject, or at least sort of doom and gloom on it. And so I'm gonna take the opposite tack. I agree with you absolutely, and I do think just getting out of the way, this third-party threat is the most important thing. It's the most important impediment to Joe Biden's chances. And it's not just no labels. It could also be RFK Jr. He, who knows? Jill Stein is out there, and you've got Cornel West too. And depending on where they all wind up on the ballot, that's a very dangerous place to be. And they're doing polling that shows that these third parties across the board do pull more from Biden than they pull from Trump. So, this idea on no labels, which seems to be thinking, well, we'll put up Joe Manchin, and then that'll give Republicans a chance to vote for somebody other than Trump that they like. That's not how it works out. I mean, Trump is Trump, Republicans are Republicans. You're dealing with that party, and that's just what you have to do. So, there was a big meeting the other day, apparently, among a bunch of Democratic activist groups like Move On and actually Third Way, which has come out as being the big antagonist for no labels, which is kind of funny to me. But hey, I'll take it. It's fine if they want to put some energy toward that. And they were all saying that their main they believe it's a big grift, and it is. No labels is a big grift. They're taking tons and tons of money from people who apparently have money to burn, but they said in this meeting, apparently, I think this was reported in Semaphore, that they're going to the candidates, the potential candidates like Liz Cheney or Manchin or any of the others, and saying, look, don't do this. You're gonna get Trump elected. Do not run, third party. And in fact, they got a quote from somebody who was apparently on the inside of the Manchin, his, insider group, saying that he wasn't going to do it. They came out afterwards and said, "Oh, he hasn't made any decisions."
Right.
But
and Cheney was just saying that she was just saying that to sell her books. Now that her book is on the top, she's not. I mean, she's not.
And what good would that do? I mean, it's like what Republican?
Absurd.
They're not going to vote for her.
No.
So what? And anything, it might hurt Biden. I mean, I could see some little old ladies going, "Oh, well, I like that Liz Cheney. What a nice girl." I'm voting for her. So that it's not going to help. So in any case, there is a lot of activity on this, and people are definitely worried about it. So just getting that out of the way. I honestly think that when people start looking at the way Donald Trump is campaigning, and I see no reason to believe that he's going to change, he's nuttier than he was before. He's always been nuts. We know that. We all watched him, tell people to drink bleach and what have you. But I do think that this new authoritarian, let's say it, Nazi, Hitler-esque, fascist rhetoric of his. I do think I think that
Hitler copied me. I came up with the whole thing myself.
I haven't even read
He copied me. I never read Mein Kampf.
Which is funny because he's never read anything, so doesn't really say too much.
I believe it. Yeah, I totally believe he hasn't read Mein Kampf because he has never read anything. But I do believe that he's a natural-born fascist. He doesn't need to read it. He lives it. It's in his DNA. And he'll say it's in his DNA because he loves to talk about how he loves his good German blood. So, this is the guy that we're talking about. And I do think, is what you said, Sam, that people have forgotten, who he is. And I think when they're reminded of it, it's going to make a difference. So that's Trump. And he is going to be the nominee. I think we can all agree. It would take, he's got to fall over on the golf course or at the omelet bar at Mar-a-Lago and have a heart attack or something for him not to be the nominee. And that's really what Nikki and Ron DeSantis have been playing with. But I do think these economic numbers, I think they're starting to make a difference. You're seeing rises in consumer confidence, interest rates are coming down, inflation is coming down, mortgage rates have dropped substantially, and that's all this stuff. And then that with the Fed
Have
saying
mortgage
that
rates dropped
yes,
recently?
just happened this week. Yeah,
Oh, I
just
didn't
happened
know
this week.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that must be in anticipation
Yeah, right.
of the Fed
Right.
dropping rates going forward.
Exactly. And then you've got rents, also another big story that rents have stabilized and are starting to come down. You're starting to see an economy that is improving in a way. Now, I'm older than you guys both, and I went through the early 80s when this whole thing, when we went through the Ronald Reagan's first term. And I was an adult at that time. So I remember this, and it was like you can't imagine the horror of what the economy was like then. I mean, they called it the misery index. It was high unemployment and high inflation all at the same time. It was horrible, which is something we were anticipating that was going to happen in this case when the Fed was raising interest rates. And we thought, oh my God, we're going to have a recession. Unemployment's going to happen. Didn't happen. So it looks like we've got a soft landing. But in the 80s, going into that election in 1984, which I followed very, very closely, and everybody assumed that Reagan was dead. They really did. And it was because it was so bad. I mean, the pain of what, and Reagan had taken out the flight, the
FAA,
PATCO, the union, the union, the flight. What are they called?
The
air traffic controllers. Yeah, union, and he had taken that out. I mean, everybody was just it was like, whoa, this is terrible. And then suddenly, as people started to feel it, things came around, and of course they had the famous ad "Morning in America." And it was a landslide victory. I'm not comparing it. We're in a different time. Donald Trump is a very different kind of person. We're dealing with a Democrat in the White House instead of a Republican, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just saying that I have seen it happen where you can go from this really miserable doom and gloom feeling about the economy, and of course we have the hangover from the pandemic, which I think has really been affecting people's vibe, if you want to call it that. I sense that that's changing. So that's my hopium, is that I think that between seeing Donald Trump and what he is and the economy improving, I think that Biden doesn't have to do a whole lot. It's like you say, he can do like a more Rose Garden strategy, get out there and make speeches and have other people out there doing the hardcore anti-Trump campaigning, which I hope that the Democrats get on. They need to do that. And I think that he'll eke out a victory. I think, all things being equal, I think he should. Now, a lot depends on, I'm very worried about what's happening with the Israel and Gaza situation, because that's very volatile. And everybody, even the war hawks in the Congress, are now saying, come on, this is ridiculous. You got to do something. So that could, you never know how events are going to affect things. But just from my perspective, I think he's in better shape than most people think. That's my feeling.
Do you think that he needs to start, though, running with a message now a little bit, even though like the primary process hasn't even begun?
Absolutely.
Because I've been bandying this idea about in my head about how Biden really, because yes, rental prices are beginning to tick down, but homelessness went up 12%, and I think it's one of the highest homelessness rates that we've seen in years.
There's a housing shortage.
There
just simply is. We haven't built housing. This has been building for really since the financial crisis.
So my idea is I really think Biden should run on a national housing initiative on rental prices, on building more housing, potentially repealing the Fair Cloth Amendment in order to get more subsidized housing built, although that's, I'm sure, a little bit too liberal for his taste. But I mean, that's the kind of thing that could really appeal to younger voters who are feeling pretty despondent about the student debt promise kind of falling through. And part of that's the Supreme Court. Part of that, I think, is a failed strategy of Biden and not going more aggressively on that front. But housing is the other thing in rental prices that affect my generation. What do you think of that idea as something that he could emphasize a bit?
I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it's absolutely a fabulous idea. That's one of the things that has, and it's not just young people. I mean, it's like everybody,
right?
Who are. I mean, if you're a homeowner and you're old, if you're my age and you've got a lot of equity in your house, things are looking pretty good, right? You can sell out and to some speculator somewhere, and you've got a nice tidy nest egg. But for anybody else, it's a problem across the board. So yeah, I think it's a great idea, and it also would tie in perfectly with his his emphasis on infrastructure, right? Because he's been, in fact, there is a lot of home building is way up just over the last 6 months. Suddenly we're starting to see housing really ticking up, at new housing. And I notice here in this, because I live in the city, you guys live in the city, I'm sure you're noticing that there's a lot of building.
They've been building buildings here for like the past 10 years. It's been like
Our audience
I
gets to
walk
hear
by-
the lovely noises outside of our office.
But that's been going on for a long time. I mean, it's really, we're talking about housing all across the country, maybe outside of different cities. We lost Heather again. What's going on with this end of year? How about when we talk about infrastructure, we start to provide better internet for Heather Parton?
That would be nice.
And Digby, we'll start with there. Or I mean, she's in the city. Do we have her? Let's see if we
Not
can
quite
get her
yet.
back on.
She's coming back in. She's coming back in. But yeah, I mean, I there's a lot of ways that Biden could put that to the forefront of his campaign and have a message that isn't just a redux of, once again, I'm not Trump. And now we have Heather back.
Yeah, Heather, we were just saying in terms of infrastructure, we got to get improvement on your internet. But
storms going on. That's why. So,
okay.
Sorry about that.
I mean, let's just touch on one thing. I mean, there's some polling out there that was done, and I think it was Ari Rabenhoff just wrote a piece about it in The Intercept that showed, if you look at the cohorts of people who voted for Biden and for Trump under the age of 45, I think it is at this point, there's been a shift that, and it's, again, causal, it's very difficult, but there's a correlation between those people who have student debt and voted for Biden in 2020, who have student debt, are less likely to vote for Biden now. And there's speculation that, and again, very tough to assess this, but there's speculation that the idea of like anticipation of getting student debt relief, having the moratorium because of COVID, operating under those past 4 years, 3 years, anticipating a relief of student debt, has left people feeling like, they were counting on that already. It was like, their eggs, they counted their eggs, and now some of their eggs have been taken away from them, or the anticipation of having those eggs, were taken away. There's counter arguments to that, but I think but I don't, frankly, I think there's something to that. Biden has provided debt relief for about 3 million of the 42 million who are in debt, but they tend to be older than 45 because of the nature of that debt. It's if you've paid for 20 years and if you still haven't paid off your bill, or et cetera, et cetera. And so, I mean, there's a real sense out there that maybe, I don't know what he could do other than the process that they already are engaging in, because the Supreme Court inhibited it, and it wasn't voted upon by Congress. But it does feel like there needs to be something that Biden, is out there campaigning on, and they seem to be sort of without a message at the moment.
Well, I think, honestly, I think one of the things they need to do, and it doesn't have to come from Biden himself. I mean, part of this is, and I saw a thing the other day. It was one of those Bulwark guys, Tim Miller, was talking about how he was at some event and he started talking to, and he said, a person in the cabinet who is very, very good on television. He was being funny. Very, very good on television, and he likes to talk about potholes and transportation. So of course he's talking about Pete Buttigieg, right? Who is very good on television, right? He's a very effective messenger. He said, why don't they have, those people out there talking about, not just accomplishments by the Biden administration. I mean, they do that, but also things like explanatory politics, which, somebody like Bill Clinton was really good at, where you go out there and you talk about why things are the way they are. What happened here? What went on that made this happen? The student loan story is a really, really great way for the administration to say, look, here we want to do this. We wanted to do it. These are the roadblocks that we came up against. And I know people don't want to hear excuses, but it's very difficult to understand why things are so gridlocked and why things are so difficult and why it's always pulling teeth and why promises like that are not easily fulfilled. And they need to have people out there, and Biden's not good at this, so it shouldn't be him. But somebody like Buttigieg or others, there are others.
Buttigieg was against student debt relief. I mean,
maybe that's why he can't say anything.
Right.
Maybe not him, or maybe he's changed his mind. Let's have a positive sort of. He's changed, and he can be out there talking about. But in any case, my point is that it's just people don't understand really what happened, and so I don't blame them for being disappointed and upset and feeling like there was no, they were promised something that they didn't get. I think it's fair for them to feel that way, but they have to, somebody's got to tell them what happened, and I don't think they have.
Well, my frustration is just that, and I agree with you that there has to be messaging. But the Biden administration fell on its face from the beginning with this because they sent out letters to people and said, we're going to cancel your debt, and just did this long wind up where they had 3 or 4 months of let's look into the legality of it, and just said, here you go, conservative group in Missouri or wherever they made that bogus claim about harm, financial harm, which ended up being proven actually they would benefit this Missouri basically kind of
well, it wasn't. I mean, just to be clear, there was a Missouri entity that serviced loans for the state, and they weren't the ones who brought the suit.
Right, Missouri
it was actually
did
the state
on their
of Missouri
behalf.
did on their behalf,
Yes.
even though that agency said, no, we don't want you to do this.
No, you're right to clarify that. But my point is just like Biden gave them literally saying like, I'm going to drive down the field. I'm going to call a slant. I'm going to call a run play. I'm going to call a deep pass down the middle, and here you go. And defense, there you go. This is my plan to get into the end zone. And I'm still so flummoxed by that choice, and it really has hurt him, I think, overall, because when these young people got that letter, they thought it was happening, and I don't understand the strategy of doing that first.
I don't either. That's a very odd. That's a very odd thing to do unless you've got it in the bag. Don't get people's hopes up.
Right.
And of course now they don't understand what happened. So you're sitting there with a bunch of very disappointed people. And, I get it. I totally get it. And I don't know what they can do now in terms of policy to change it. I mean, have you heard any? I mean, maybe I'm not following.
No, they've got this. They could theoretically try, and I think they're trying to do it maybe under a different authority, but that they are going through the, months and months long sort of like process to make sure that it's all legit. It's not inconceivable to me that they'll be done with this process. They'll try and do it again if they win re-election, and then the Supreme Court will screw it up. What's going on there, Bradley? We just had a little bit
Heather,
of a problem.
are you still there?
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
there you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're having all sorts of technical difficulties. All right. Well, let's leave that. We'll have a lot of time in the next 11 months to talk about the campaign and what the Biden administration is or is not doing to sort of like provide a positive, a proactive agenda aside from the fact that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, which I think is, I think it's a pretty good case, but sometimes, people aren't necessarily always moved by that. I mean, we see this, it's not just in this country. We saw what just happened in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen what's going on in, in Europe, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk just briefly about what's happening with the Republicans in Congress. Like the other, the one thing that I think, to the extent that I do feel hopeful about is that the Democrats are going to retake the House. So there will be some, in the worst case scenario, Donald Trump wins and he gets the Senate. There'll be some slow to the roll. It will be a real problem for the judiciary again, which is an issue.
It's unthinkable, Sam. He can't win again. I mean, it's not.
I think people need to think about it so that they'll get them motivated. But
Yeah.
it is the idea of Trump winning and there being a theocrat as the Speaker of the House. I mean, it's one thing to have the vice president, but I don't know that the Speaker isn't more powerful with a Republican president if the Speaker isn't more powerful when you're talking about theocrats. I know that Pence was the VP. Oh, we lost it again. I don't know what's going on.
Heather is having those thunderstorms in her area, so I feel like that's got to be something like that. Well, there she is.
Here
again.
she's back.
I am so sorry. I can't explain it. It's just I got weather here, I guess. It's ridiculous. Anyway.
The idea of like what's happening in Congress. I mean, I haven't seen any polling of like the 18 districts that Biden won and are represented by Republicans, but you can see, the Republicans getting nervous. Particularly the ones in New York, I notice, they were very excited to get rid of George Santos, but they've had to vote for the impeachment. I mean, I think that's going to be the sort of a real problem for them down the road, it seems to me.
Oh, for sure. And then you've got this new ruling that, the gerrymander is now out in New York. So that should make a difference.
Yep.
Really, I mean, Mike Johnson we really take a minute to talk about him because and I'm sure you have in the past here, but I'm telling you, this guy is something else. And he is as dangerous in a different way as Donald Trump is. And the combination of the two of them is terrifying. Because he is a real theocrat. I mean, we're not talking just sort of, a pretend guy who's out there, going to the mega church in order to, get votes. I mean, he's for real. In fact, this week, I don't know if you remember, Sam, probably close to 20 years ago, we were talking about this, and it was part of the rise of the theocratic right during the early 2000s. When we were talking about those purity balls, do you remember those?
Oh, the purity balls where a father takes daughter there.
He marries his daughter. Basically, she's wearing a wedding dress, and they exchange rings, and she commits herself to her father until her husband comes along.
Yep.
All that. It was really, let's talk grooming. Huh? I mean, that's really some sick stuff. Mike Johnson just turned up. There was some tape of him. He and his daughter did the purity ball thing, and it's on tape. You can see him doing it. This poor little girl, as his daughter. I mean, this is what we're talking about. That is the far extreme religious right, Christian nationalist, the worst of the worst. And this guy is, he's second in line to the presidency, extremely powerful job. And his connection there with that far right aspect of Christian nationalism is just, it's terrifying to me. And when you combine that with Trump and his newfound love of Adolf Hitler, who, copied him, we're talking about a Republican Party that's gone even further than I anticipated they would be able to go. And they seem to be running with it. I don't see any backtracking. I don't see any, Trump came out this week and his people said, we like this poisoning the blood thing. We're going to run with it. He's not backing off. And so this is a very terrifying thing. And the only good news is that the Republicans in the House are so inept and so dysfunctional that they're unable to actually do much. And of course, thank God we have a Democratic Senate and then, a Democrat in the White House that stops them from actually passing any of their legislation. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a very crazy time. I mean, this isn't, this is beyond what we've seen before. Let's just put it that way. And I think people need to really be aware of just how.
And Johnson is very. He first off, he's got the whole lying for the Lord thing down.
Yeah, perfect.
He is, he's
He's
out there,
good.
he realizes that the American public cannot be sold this, his agenda at the moment. I think he realizes the American public can never be sold the agenda. I don't think that's the issue. The issue, I think, is he realizes we don't have the other branches of government. We don't have the other house. We don't have, we don't have the Senate. We don't have the presidency. So there's, keep the powder dry. But yes, this guy is full on theocrat, and second in line to the presidency, but far more powerful, it seems to me, in terms of being able to actually create legislation than the vice president. And so,
the vice who cares about the vice president?
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, Pence was the highest ranking theocrat that we have had in this country, but I really think that Mike Johnson is this guy now.
Yeah.
A lot to be sort of concerned about as we go into 2024. We're obviously going to be talking about just about all this stuff again, it seems to me. We're going to enjoy, I think, Ron DeSantis, sort of whimpering away.
That's my Christmas present to myself, is to enjoy watching Ron DeSantis disintegrate before my eyes. It's a beautiful thing.
But I think we're going to watch, the last thing I think, that it's, aside from the presidential election being fairly ominous, I think we're going to be seeing this Israel assault. I think this is going to be a story that's going to last well into 2024.
Yep.
I agree.
And
how can it not?
Well, I also think that, there's reports that Netanyahu and parts of his government want to go into Lebanon. And we see the Houthis, hitting the Red Sea, shipping. Joe Biden has yet to indicate that he's not willing to sort of shut down what Israel is doing or attempt to. And it's unclear to me that he's not willing to stay with Netanyahu, even if this thing becomes the regional conflict that supposedly they are desperate to not have happen, and expand beyond that. And there's no indication that Netanyahu wants to do anything other than to continue to have a conflict going, because it's the one thing that is keeping him in office, which may be the one thing that's keeping him out of jail. And, this situation where he's where the Israeli public is as soon as you're done with this, you're out of office. Well, his incentive is, how do I not be done with this? And, they have a parliamentary system where it's we need to put off elections because we have a major war happening on our northern front, would be, one of those type of situations.
And
Absolutely.
Biden is leaking to the press in the U.S. that he wants to see a change of power. We're in a situation, and I said this at the start of this, when MBS raised, throttled down the production of oil with OPEC, right, ahead of the 2022 midterms, because he didn't like that Biden had some tough rhetoric on him during the election, and then Biden bumped him, and all is well or whatever. We're going to see this times exponentially with Netanyahu, who is, as Biden begins to just have tiny criticisms of the massacre in Gaza, my guess is, as he ramps it up, he's going to also see this as an opportunity to hurt Biden electorally, because there's nothing more that someone like Netanyahu would want than Trump to get back in office.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. I mean, and it's the same thing with Ukraine and Putin. They're watching what's happening here, and both Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin see Donald Trump as being an ally. And so it works very well, and he is. So, they're not wrong. This is going to be the way that this is being handled by them, and then by the Biden administration in response, is going to have an effect on the election. as they plan. That's why I'm saying, we don't know what events are going to happen here that could. I mean, this potential for a regional war, and maybe worse, when you consider all the hot spots all over the place. That's hanging out here, and we just have to hope against hope that doesn't happen, because that's a whole different. That's a conversation I don't think any of us are really prepared to contemplate at the time.
Well, Heather, thanks for wrapping up this year. It's been a while since we had, I feel like 2020 wrapping up was sort of fun. 2021, we were still a little bit hopeful because we thought that maybe this Build Back Better could actually happen. Although I do recall us being like, he should have done this in June instead of letting Sinema and Portman walk in the door. So I guess it's right now we're on maybe one for every 4 years. Is that the way it works?
That are happy?
Where we're, sort of optimistic. But you were a little bit optimistic about the election, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I try. I don't want to succumb to just being so depressed that I can't get up in the morning. So I'm gonna try and keep myself, somewhat.
Teach me your tips.
Self-care is important.
Teach me your tips.
All right,
Heather.
we just lost you again. There we go.
Okay.
Heather Parton, have a great, have a happy holiday, or Christmas,
you
if
too.
that is also what you happen to celebrate, and a happy New Year.
You too. Can't wait. We'll see you next year.
Okay.
See you, Heather.
Bye, Heather.
Bye.
All right, folks. I guess, did we go to the fun half now, or do we do a freebie Friday?
It would be very much in the holiday spirit if we were to do a freebie Friday.
What is Monday Christmas?
Yes.
Okay. We're not doing a show on Monday.
Or you could continue your war on Christmas and put
I'm not
the
gonna
fun
make
half
it-
behind the paywall.
I'm not going to, that's not,
Too many civilian
that's collateral.
casualties.
Yeah, that's collateral damage. Folks, freebie Friday. But let's take a break, head to the fun half, but we'll leave it open for everybody. Okay.
Great.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll come right back. It is a freebie Friday. Just a reminder, it is your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajority.report.com. When you do, you not only allow this show to survive and thrive, you get the free half free of commercials. You get to I Am the Show via the app. You get that discount on our merch, shop.majorityreportradio.com. Please go buy the dog collars.
Yeah.
It sounded like such a great idea. We've got people have bought them, but at the end, within 6 to 8 months, we own all the collars, because it's not, you can't do dog collars. Apparently it's like you can't, you got to order them, purchase them, and then that's it. And they're $12. I mean, you could actually even use it if you're very, 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 very thin, maybe for your kids, like a kid belt or something like that. I don't know. Or a headband, or just
a headband with a buckle on it.
I don't know what's going on these days. Or maybe, weightlifters can use it around their wrists and attached. There's so many uses for it.
I mean, I don't understand why the dog collar has to be multi-use. I feel like there's many dogs and they all need collars.
Yeah, buy the dog collars, but there's also the Whoopsie t-shirt and the Left is Best. I mean, there's all sorts of great merch there. The days of the week. So check it out, shop.majorityreportradio.com. Also, don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, and featuring the Majority Report blend. Use the coupon code Majority, get 10% off. It's great coffee, and their prices are extremely reasonable for ground nut ground. I mean, whole bean. I think you can get it ground too if you want. But check it out, justcoffee.coop. Our Discord. If you're feeling a little bit lonely for us this next week, head over to majoritydiscord.com. Over 10,000 of you are over there posting. Great way to catch up on stuff. Emma, ESVN.
Well, we gave our picks against the spread after my 3-0 week. Let's see if I can keep it going. Kowalski has sent us some methods of punishment, and
Oh my God, that soda looks disgusting.
yes, well, don't worry. One of us will be chugging it in some disgusting fashion at the end of this competition.
They're all on display at the bookshelf.
Oh, I see them. I'm looking at them right now. So thank you, Kowalski, for that. YouTube.com/ESVN show for that. And we have Left Reckoning, right, for Matt?
Yes. David Griscom did the stream as Matt was traveling on Tuesday. He spoke with I forgot, I'm gonna get her name, 1 second. It's Kelly Klein Heisterkamp. She is a geographer PhD student at Syracuse University. They were discussing Germany's climate nexus. I just want to get her full name here. Nicole Klein Heisterkamp Gonzalez. She's a PhD student in geography at Syracuse University to discuss her research on the labor environment nexus in Germany. So that was at youtube.com/Left Reckoning for that, as well as patreon.com/Left Reckoning if you'd like more, and the post game.
All right, folks. We'll see all of you in the fun half today for Freebie Friday. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now. And I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now. And I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What? What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomi Key.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's.
Stop talking for
wow.
a second and let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is it?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello, is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Who libertarians? They're so stupid though. Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering.
I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-501 1 half 3 8s
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
6 5 4 $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
Call it satire. Sam goes, it's satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like
Yeah.
everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you, bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. All right, folks. 646-257-3920 is the number. The phones are on. Wanda Duck just ordered a red posit collar for my hyperactive Sheltie due to the stellar online marketing. Happy holidays